Loaded with power and stability, this is the Volkl Vostra 8 300 grams. After 3 years, Volkl updates their line of rackets, now called the Vostra series. In the first launch, the Vostra 8 300 features tweener-friendly specs and a new cosmetic that gives a nod to their heritage. A more advanced red cell material has been added to the frame's layup, which combines Volkl's signature V-cell material with a flexible Riva resin for better stability and feel. Other technologies that are present in the racket include super grommets for better spin potential and a VTEX butt cap and Riva handle system for more comfort. The Vostra 8 300 specs are what the T-Dub playtest team like to say are right in my wheelhouse, and this racket was really easy for me to adjust to. From the baseline, the first thing I noticed, and that was present really throughout the entire playtest, was the easy power and the higher launch angle. This translated to better depth, and so my balls were landing deep in the court, pushing my opponent back. I really love this racket on defense. Now, when I was reaching for a ball or not quite in position, I was using that little bit extra depth to take my ball from a defensive shot to either a neutral or almost offensive shot, so allowing me to stay in the point. Now, when it came to offensive shots or like an approach shot, I loved that I got the extra miles per hour on my shot. However, I had to be careful that I wasn't over-hitting it, so I was adding a little bit of extra spin to drop that ball inside the baseline. Now, when I approached the net, this racket was really easy to get into position, and I found the most success punching that ball deep to end the point. For serves, I really loved the power potential on this racket. It was really easy to get up and over my head and generate some pretty significant first flat serves. And these serves were also landing pretty deep in the service box, allowing me to start the point off on the offense. Now on returns, this is where I was craving a little bit more control, as I had to hold back and aim for bigger targets as the racket was a little bit unpredictable. My favorite return to hit was deep down the middle, as I could consistently hit this target, and it allowed me to push my opponent back and kind of have to move out of the way. Now for the downsides, I wasn't the biggest fan of the feel. The racket plays firmer than I like, as well as what the specs would indicate. Overall, players looking for a user-friendly racket with great tweener specs should definitely check out the powerful Vostra 8 300.
This Vostra 8 has a lot of specs that I'm quite familiar with, and I've actually tested previous editions of the 8 series. So right away from the baseline, I felt very comfortable. I knew what to expect. It was very easy to swing. Loads of power and easy access to topspin when I needed it. Even with my flat game, I found it easy to dip that racket head and whip it over the top of the ball when I needed to access that spin. On my slice shots, I did notice they were going a little bit higher than I would prefer, so I did prefer to use that strictly for when I was in a defensive position and trying to work my way back into the point and just floating them deep. As I move forward to net, as Brittany mentioned, I also preferred to keep this nice and simple, and I was finding my best success when I was just punching at the ball. At the net is also where I noticed that up high out of the sweet spot, I was getting a little bit of instability, and that's when I actually could notice the firmness of this racket was when I was missing the ball outside of the sweet spot. Once in the sweet spot, I did find a nice, comfortable, somewhat dampened feel. When it came to my serve, this was actually my favorite shot to hit with this racket. I'm always loving rackets that give me free power on that shot, and the Vostra 8 does deliver on that front. And I did feel confident enough to carve around the ball and add some slice as well. For my returns, I was craving a little bit more control, like Brittany mentioned too. This is more powerful than the rackets I've been testing lately, so I was aiming for more conservative targets as well. Overall, if you're looking for a user-friendly racket which delivers loads of power and easy access to spin, you should check out this Vostra 8. That closes out our thoughts out here in California on this Vostra 8. Next, we're going to check in with Anna. How did this racket work for you?
Thank you, Tiffany. I was very excited to try out this new Volkl Vostra 8. This was my first time playing with a racket from this brand, and I gotta say, I was very impressed. Even though on paper the racket is described with the specs that wouldn't fit my game pretty well, I felt like I was a little afraid that the ball would not bounce into the court. After playing in it, the racket felt easy, nice to play with, and it had a great access to spin, power, and more control than I thought. With a 16x18 pattern, the racket not only offers a lot of free power, but I had to step in and rely more on my spin to make sure that ball was bouncing inside of the court. I was not afraid to hold back on my shots, which was really nice for me. I was able to step in and accelerate and take a big shot into the court and make the ball bounce deep, high over the net without much effort. I was very impressed with how soft the racket felt. It was very nice on my arm. I barely had to do anything. It was really easy going. And in terms of stability, I was actually very impressed with hitting with heavy hitters. The racket was able to respond very well and stay stable. And not only that, it felt very maneuverable. I felt like I could take the racket back quickly and get in position very well. My timing felt absolutely great. Overall, to be honest, I think this racket's a hidden gem, but if I was able to do any modifications, I would probably add a little more weight towards the handle to make it just a little more stable and feel a little more control, and that will fit better to my game. But I would definitely recommend this racket to any player that is looking for an arm-friendly, free power, great access to spin racket.
If you are looking for a well-rounded racket with easy power, the new Volco Vostra V8 would be the perfect option for you. The first thing that I noticed with this racket on the baseline was just how much easy power I was getting. The balls were flying nice and deep in the court without me having to work too much. But at the same time, I had a great sense of control of my shots. So I was really happy with that balance between power and control. When it comes to control, I would also like to add just how stable the racket felt. This racket has a relatively low swing weight, I would say, mid-range swing weight, and I almost didn't expect it to be this stable on my shots because I like to take the balls up on the rise, kind of early attacking game, and for that, I really need a racket that stays very stable in my hand. And this new Volco Vostra V8 was just that, super stable, absolutely zero complaints with that. Another highlight for me with this frame was just how easily I was able to generate spin. The racket had felt very maneuverable, and I felt like I could get under the balls very easy and get that nice depth that I enjoy in court. Overall, I found this racket to be a very easy option to play with and pick up and just get going right away, no adjustment time needed. If you're looking for something like that, or if you enjoyed rackets like the Pure Drive, something just a bit more powerful, but yet that has a lot of control, definitely give this one a go. Thanks for watching. We strung up this new Volco V8 Vostra with a Volco Cyclone at around 52 pounds. For more information on this racket or any others, please go check out Tennis Warehouse, Tennis Warehouse Europe, or Tennis Only.